Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Honeycutt, the Communications Specialist for BBB, and I'm so excited to welcome you to our BBB Business Builders Financial Management webinar today with Michelle Campbell, CPA. Some quick housekeeping before we dive in. I just want to remind everyone that we've been sending the previous webinar recordings to all of our accredited businesses, but if you'd like additional information or to register for upcoming webinars, please visit bbbevents.org. I also wanted to mention a resource page, the BBB Shop Local page that we've put together to help share your business's information with consumers so they can continue to support you throughout the coronavirus. For more information on that, visit bbbshoplocal.org. So without further delay, we're going to dive into today's presentation. Throughout the first part, Michelle's going to talk a little bit about financial management and the CARES Act and all of that good stuff. But if you have any questions, please feel free to drop those in the questions box, and we'll be sure to get to them on the second half of the hour. So without further delay, I'll pass it over to Michelle to tell us a little bit about herself and get the presentation started.
Okay, hello everyone. Of course, my name is Michelle Campbell. I'm the owner of Time Value Accounting and Business Services located in Hillsborough, North Carolina, but I do service the Triangle and do virtual as well. I'm not going to talk too much about myself. I'm just going to say that I do fractional CFO work for small businesses. So I'm your part-time CFO, and I'm a tax planning coach. Most of my clients are recurring clients, and I take care of them year after year. So without further ado, I'm actually going to turn my camera off, and so we can concentrate on the slides. We don't have a lot of time. This is 30 minutes, and I'm trying to shove as much information as I can into a short amount of time frame so that we can have time for your questions, which I'm sure there are a lot of questions. This has been a really confusing time for many small business owners. So let me turn this off, and now we can concentrate on the slideshow. I call this cash flow recovery because this epidemic or this pandemic is definitely affecting the cash flow of small businesses, their employees, their families. This is affecting everyone. So the priority is to keep your business afloat, keep the country running as much as possible. This is me again. Keep it moving. So in this talk, we're going to talk about the changes made to tax filing and payment deadline changes. We're going to talk about the disaster assistance programs that have come out, local government and local communities grants that have also become available, the unemployment benefits that have now become eligible for small business owners, for self-employed and independent contractors. And then we can talk about some small business cash management issues. I wish I could talk much more about that because it's extremely important, but I am here to talk to you if you want to contact me. Okay, very briefly, tax filing and payment deadline changes. Simple, simple, simple. It is automatically extended for both federal and state to July 15th for both filing and payment deadline changes when it comes to your income tax. This specifically has to do with your 1040. Business tax return should have already been filed March 15th. The April 15th, anything that was due April 15th has been extended to July 15th without you having to take any further actions. There are certain things that have not been extended. Of course, not everything is going to be extended. We're talking about payroll tax filings, informational returns, estimated income tax due date, which is June 15th, and a few other things. But when it comes to your income tax returns, your 1040 returns, it's extended. You don't have to worry about it. Okay, so we're going to start talking briefly about some initiatives that have passed, and this is before the CARE Act, because I know a lot of you want to hear about the CARE Act. So This has to do, this People First initiative specifically has to do with people who are in tax problems, tax trouble. They have essentially slowed down any kind of collection actions. If you are under installment agreement, they have basically postponed any kind of collections, or if you have submitted an OIC, there's several different things. Now, if you are in significant trouble from before, and you know they're still working from home, but for a lot of these things, they've actually slowed down or stopped collections. And as long as you're in compliance for the most part, you can kind of ease your brain. Okay, then there's a Families First Coronavirus Response Act. This was signed into law on March 18, 2020. It provides for supplemental appropriations related to COVID-19 public health emergency, as well as waivers and modifications of federal nutrition programs, employment-related protections and benefits, health programs, and insurance coverage requirements, and related employer tax credits and tax exemptions. So the tax credits for qualified sick leave wages and qualified family leave wages required to be paid by the Act will apply to wages paid for the period beginning on April 1st, 2020 and ending on December 31st, 2020. The notice also provides that for credits for qualified sick leave equivalent amounts and qualified family leave equivalent amounts for certain self-employed individuals. And let's just kind of, move past this thing a little bit, because I'm sure you had an HR person come in before and talk about this whole issue. This is a much more of an HR issue, but it is important to speak about. It essentially has to do with, employer tax credits, qualified sick leave and family leave for people who are experiencing COVID-19, and for credits for self-employed individuals. All right. So now, finally, CARES Act, Keeping American Workers Paid and Employed Act. This is really the big thing that's going on right now, why bankers' systems are crashing, because everybody's trying to apply to this loan, and it's the most confusing thing ever. And mostly because it's been pushed out, like really just pushed out, and everybody's trying to build the system at the same time. I can't blame anybody for anything. This is not a partisan issue. It's just, people are trying to do the right things and having to react quickly. So this program, Coronavirus Aid, Relief and Economic Security Act, so it actually has, CARES is an acronym. It was just passed by Congress, and it's intended to help business owners with what they need right now. Now, they are on the cusp of trying to pass another version of this coming up. I don't know what it's going to look like, but for what has already been passed, the main thing is the Paycheck Protection Program. This program would provide cash flow assistance through 100% federally guaranteed loans to employers who maintain their payroll during this emergency. If employers maintain their payroll, the loans will be forgiven, which would help workers remain employed, as well as help small business owners and our economy snap back quicker after the crisis. PPP has a host of attractive features, such as forgiveness of up to 8 weeks of payroll based on employee retention and salary levels. There are no SBA fees, and at least 6 months of deferral with maximum deferrals up to a year. That means that you don't have to make a payment for 6 months. Small businesses and other eligible entities will be able to apply if they were harmed by COVID-19 between February 15, 2020 and June 30, 2020. This program would be retroactive to February 15th in order to help workers who have already been laid off, get them back on payrolls. Loans are available through June 30th. Now, caveat with that is the loan funds are finite. I just received word this morning that Wells Fargo, they're no longer lending. Even people who have put in for this through Wells Fargo, they're basically tapped out. Well, they're mostly tapped out because they had lower funds available or because of the shenanigans they pulled before. But what's tended to happen is that all of these banks are only dealing with business customers. So even if you are, for instance, I have a Chase checking account and I've had it for 20 years. I'm not eligible to apply through Chase. I have to apply through my business bank, even if you have a mortgage loan or other products, they're making it very difficult, or they're trying their best to make it difficult for people to apply because they are overwhelmed and they're kind of having a first priority mentality. And who knows? There are some online lenders who are willing. It's just really a search. But who's eligible? All businesses, essentially. If you have 500 and fewer employees, you're essentially available, eligible, including nonprofits. Okay, the loan amount is 250% of your average monthly payroll expense. The maximum loan amount is 10 million. The interest rate is 1% with a 2-year time frame. Now that changed like so many different times. There's, like I said, a 6-month deferment. No personal guarantee or collateral is required. There are no fees. Seasonal businesses. So everybody who has been in existence since April 1st of 2019 through March 31st of 2020, they're going to ask for financials and payroll data from that for that whole entire year. There are seasonal businesses, so there's ways to work around it, or even people who just started, they started within that year. There's a different calculation. But if you've been in existence that long, it is that full year, April 1st to March 31st, and you're going to have to provide payroll data. If you are a self-employed individual with no payroll, then they're relying on your net income. I have very, very mixed feelings about that, because what tends to happen when you are, for instance, a sole proprietor and you have a 1040 Schedule C, you're trying to minimize your tax burden as much as possible. Or let's say you made investments in your business, not expecting COVID-19 to happen. Now you're having to base whatever loan you can get for this on that net income, which has already been impacted either due to tax planning, spending, extra spending on investment, whatever it is. So if you're doing your loan request based on net income, what if you don't really have net income? Many people, they exist off of their owner's draw or their distributions. So it doesn't feel like, to me, and after 2 weeks of really studying this day and night, the conclusion is that it's, for me anyway, my conclusion is that it's less beneficial for those type of people without payroll. If you have payroll, it's more lenient. And they're making it so that independent contractors have to apply on their own. So if you are a business with independent contractors who basically are employees, they have to apply on their own. You can't claim them. That's unfortunate, because this is more or less a gig economy, and it's now gone against us when it comes to this situation. So there's employers whose workforce is essentially filled with 1099 employees. So this is kind of problematic, and I'm not sure if they're going to somehow change that or make some exceptions, or if banks are actually asking for the information, but they're saying to you, well, it's not part of the calculation, but send it to us anyway. I'm less enthusiastic about that changing now. I was a little bit before, saying maybe they'll accept it, but I'm not anymore. Okay, eligible costs, compensation. which to me is a very ambiguous statement because I can make compensation into different things, but salary, wage, commission, or similar compensation, what does that mean? Net earnings from self-employment, which is what I mentioned before, payment of cash tip or equivalent. So essentially, whatever it is that you are paying payroll taxes on. If we were to break it down, that's it right there, which includes vacation, parental, family, medical, sick leave, all of that. All of these things that I'm mentioning, you're paying payroll taxes on. Now, group health benefits, you're not paying payroll taxes on. Matter of fact, you're getting a benefit. So you can include group health benefits in there, payment of retirement benefits, state or local payroll taxes. What's not eligible? Any salary for an individual person over 100,000. So basically it's 100,000 or less. If a person's making over 100,000, they're not getting that difference. Federal payroll taxes, compensation of employees outside the US, and qualified sick and family leave for which a credit is allowed in the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So if you're eligible for the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, you have to factor that in to the calculation. And if you have payroll, you're eligible. Matter of fact, not even just payroll, self-employed sole proprietors. According to the definition of the FFCRA, basically it is February, March of 2020's payroll tax, federal payroll taxes. All right. Here are the allowable uses of the loan proceeds. This is very, 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 very important. Forgiveness on a covered loan is equal to the sum of the following payroll costs incurred during the covered 8-week period. So, costs related to the continuation of group health insurance benefits, salaries, wages, and the like, payment of interest on any mortgage. So if you own your building and you have a mortgage on it, you can claim the interest. If you're paying rent, you can claim the rent and utilities. In order for the loan to be forgiven, 75% of the proceeds must go directly to payroll, and the rest can be used to pay for those other things. You notice that there's no other expenses in there. There's no other operational, it's just those specific items you can use the proceeds towards. Okay? Now, to be forgiven, you must apply through your lender separately. It's a separate form to apply for forgiveness of the loan. The documentation includes verifying the number of employees on payroll and pay rates, verifying the covered mortgage obligation, lease obligation, utilities, and certification from a representative of your business that everything you're saying is true. It's not difficult as long as you're doing what you say you're doing or what you're going to spend the money on and keeping track of it. Some people have recommended, my accounting community, they've recommended that people have separate accounts. I really don't believe that's necessary. If you are keeping track, if you have a bookkeeping system, you can easily provide that data. Now, if you don't have a tracking system, that's another problem. But as long as you have the proper bookkeeping system in place, I don't feel that it's necessary to have a separate account. Okay. Here are other things that will affect the loan forgiveness if you decrease your full-time employee headcount. So if you say that here are the number of full-time employees, but you decrease it, that loan forgiveness portion will be affected. If you decrease salaries and wages by more than 25% for any employee that made less than 100,000 in 2019, if you decrease those wages by that amount, it can affect your loan forgiveness. Now, I will say that any portion of the loan that's not forgiven, it's moving forward at that 1% 2-year term. So it's not, yes, we'd all like a forgiveness, but it's still a good deal. Okay, emergency is injury disaster loan. This actually in place It's not just for the coronavirus. They are actually had this type of loan before. Essentially, it's a loan. EIDLs are loans up to $2 million with principal and interest deferment. With this loan application, so the funny story is they came out with this loan application and it crashed. I mean, not this weekend, the weekend before, it crashed. It was horrible. It was a long, tedious application and everybody was jumping on it at the same time and it was a disaster. Last week, Monday or Sunday, I believe, they came out with a new application and I will tell you, it takes 5 minutes. It literally takes 5 minutes. The only financial data they're asking you for is what is your gross sales and cost of goods sold for the period of February 1st, 2019 through January 31st, 2020. That is the only financial data they're asking you. It is so simple. Most of it is what's your name, number, what's your business, address, just what's your EIN number, what type of entity are you? It's really the most simplest of applications you can go through. Not to say they're not going to come back to you at some point, but it's a simple application, at least to start. Another funny thing is they said that you will get a grant, or you're eligible for a grant of up to $10,000. And if you're accepted, then that money will be deposited into your bank account within 3 days. Most people have not seen that money. I've heard of very, 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 very few instances where people actually had money in their account. Most people have not. So I don't know what's going on with that. I recommend to people that they do complete it, especially if they need it. It's because it's so simple. And at the end of the application, they check mark that they do want to be considered for the $10,000 grant. So that is a very simple thing to do. And I will say this as well. It is kind of a pet peeve that people are applying for things and they don't need it. You should need it. Either you have been affected by COVID-19 to the degree of you're in a severe cash flow situation, or in a tentative, you're in a situation where there is some uncertainty. But if you're doing well, I would say don't do it. The loan funds, the EIDL and the PPP, they are limited and people are fighting over that money. And there are a lot of people here that absolutely need that money. So if you don't need it, don't take it. Okay, so there is a Title II to the CARES Act, Assistance for American Workers, Families, and Businesses. This mostly has to do with the expansion of unemployment benefits. And the biggest thing I can say about that is that it's opening it up to self-employed individuals, which is not, it's really unheard of. Usually self-employed people, namely, sole proprietors, general partners, they're not eligible. I can say that S Corp owners, it's a back and forth kind of a thing because you're supposed to be on payroll, but for the most part, self-employed people, they're never eligible for unemployment. So through this, eligible for unemployment in the state, and then federal is adding up to an additional $600 per week to those benefits. So you're getting it from the state and the federal. And it also provides for additional 13 weeks of emergency unemployment benefits. The recovery rebate. You've heard a lot about this in the news. I'm not sure how much confusion there is about this, but I can give you a few facts. The rebate is dependent on basically your tax status. If you are married filing joint, you're getting $2,400, $500 for each qualifying child. If you are single, you're getting $1,200. If you are head of household, you're getting $1,200 with $500 for each qualifying child. And the credit is refundable. Now, here are the limits. Limits are, if you're 150,000 for a joint return, you get the full amount. After that, there's a calculation to phase it out until you're no longer eligible. 112,500 per head of household and 75,000 for everybody else, so single. Estates and trusts are not eligible. Non-resident aliens are not eligible. And any person who can be claimed as a dependent on somebody's return is not eligible. Okay, so here's the thing about it. It's a very simple thing to understand. $1,200 for everybody, basically. Now, if you filed a 2018 return or a 2019 return, and you included your direct, first of all, you have to be caught up to at least 2018. That is the first thing. So if you don't have your 2018 tax return filed, that's your first task. Secondly, if you included your direct deposit information for a refund or your bank information for a withdrawal, that is the bank account they're going to be using to send you your money. For people who that's not true, they're supposed to be, and I have not heard of any updates about this, but they're supposed to be in the midst of trying to create a system so people can submit their bank information. Because if you're having to accept a paper check, the word is you're not getting that for 5 to 6 months. Okay. Now, the last thing is having to do with the calculation. If you file the 2018 return and not a 2019 return, because of course everything's been delayed, that's what they're going to use. They're going to use the 2018 income to determine if you're eligible for the credit. If you use your 2019, that's what they're going to use 2019. At the end of the year, at the end of 2020, or in 2021 when we're doing taxes for 2020, they're going to reconcile to see if you were not eligible before, but you're eligible now. So if you become eligible because of your 2020 income, you will get that reflected in your tax return. So you'll get the money essentially, and it's refundable, which means you'll get the money. It's not going to be net against anything. That's refundable. That's what that means. If you got the money, but in 2020 you made more, the word is, and please, this is just seemingly an opinion right now by a lot of us or looking at the regs, don't give it back. That's essentially what, that's what we're saying. It doesn't look like you'll have to pay that back. It's kind of odd, but hey, that's the word. Okay, briefly, very briefly, I don't have a lot of time. Special use of retirement funds. This mainly has to do with you're having to take money out of your retirement and you're concerned about the 10% tax because that's what happens when you take your money out of your 401k or your IRA. Well, there's no tax, no 10% tax on distributions up to 100,000. So if you need to tap into your retirement, you don't have to worry about that tax, which is pretty cool. I mean, a lot of people, that's pretty cool. And the payback period is over 3 years, beginning after the date of distribution. So you still have 3 years to bring that money back up. It can be sent in pro rata, meaning equally over 3 years, or you may elect out of that and pay it right away. It's up to you, but you have 3 years to do so. Now, there's no 20% federal withholding on that. So they're going to give you the gross amount. They're not going to. And this is only, I believe, through the end of the year. So if you need to take your money out because of the situation, they're making it pretty easy. And let's see if I can just fly through the rest. RMDs are waived. There you go. So anybody who's having a required minimum distribution, they do not apply for the 2020 calendar year. employee retention credits. That has to do with the First Act, the Families First. This is saying basically you can receive a payroll credit for those wages. So before, when I said when you're applying for the PPP, there's a certain portion your federal payroll taxes are not eligible. The caveat about this one is that you can't have both at the same time. You cannot have the PPP and this at the same time. Okay, so yeah, the credit is not available to employers receiving PPP loans. So the question is, which one is more beneficial to you? Typically, I would say the PPP is. So that would be typically the first thing you go after. Okay. Delay of payroll tax payments, that's also important for people who have employees. Employer is responsible for paying its share, 6.2% of Social Security taxes, but this is allowing you to defer paying payroll taxes. The half of the deferred amount of payroll taxes will be due December 31st, 2021, with the remaining half due December 31st, 2022. NOL, this is important. Anybody who has NOL. So that's one of the things that was really contentious with this TCJA, the Tax Act. They are allowing you to now, basically they clawed it back. They clawed back the TCJA rules in terms of the NOLs, at least through 2020, which is good. So if you have an NOL that you can claim and carry it back, you're able to carry it back for incurred in 2018, 2019, or 2020. You can carry it back 5 years. So that's good. And then bonus depreciation. So qualified improvement property is now eligible for 100% bonus depreciation. It's effective for property placed in service after December 31st, 2017. This is interesting. It seems that in this act, they've corrected a lot of technical errors. This one was something that was like, what do you mean? It was supposed to be done. Why aren't we able to claim this? Why, so now they've corrected that, which is good. And I think I'm just going to go by small business debt relief. If you have an existing SBA loan, one of these loans, you may be able to get debt relief and lower your interest in payments. And that's interesting if you have SBA loan currently. I want to say that there are other funding options. In Orange County, they have grants and loans. Carborough, they have the Golden Leaf Foundation and the NC Rural Center. They have a bridge loan available up to $50,000, no interest for 6 months. And if you have a longer term loan, it's 5.5%. Facebook also has a small business grant. So there's more things than the SBA. That's my whole point. You can go after other financing options and probably not going to crash the server. Okay. So finally, there are so many ways, right, that you need to cut your cash. Cut your burdens and increase your cash flow. Cutting unnecessary costs is definitely one that you need to look at. My tendency is to say, or my saying is, there's things that you must have, things that are nice to have, and things you don't need at all. So you need to find out what's not needed at all and cut that, and then decide, depending on your situation, are the ones that are nice to have, are they worth cutting as well? Exploring your loan options. I brought up some loan options to you before, and the NC loans, federal loans. Look at whatever is available. Credit cards, if you're able to get lower interest credit cards, now is probably a good time. Renegotiating with your lenders. Mortgage. I got a mortgage loan deferred for one of my clients last week. If that's something that you want to look for, that will help you because you're in a tenuous situation, call your lender and say, I need help, I need to defer, and they'll still charge the interest, but they're not going to have penalties. You can work with your suppliers to extend payables. You want to keep your supplier relationship, so you want to contact them directly and say, what can I do? You can pull cash out of fixed assets. You can sell the asset, lease it back. Understand your business insurance. Most business insurance is not covering this, but you really need to check. That's all I can say. Check, make sure. You don't want to take it for granted, and consider alternative revenue streams. That's a strategy session. That right there is a strategy session. What do you need to do to make sure you have cash flow? That will take some innovation. Is there any other way you can operate to assure that these economies are not affecting you so much? And then reduce interest where possible. Okay, so I am offering a free coronavirus relief package financial consultation, and we can discuss more in detail your specific information, your specific situation. What I've given to you is very general in nature, but I am offering a personal 20-minute consultation to talk about how or what will benefit you. Okay, and we will send you the link to my booking app so you can schedule an appointment with me. All right, and that's it. So please, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm sorry I went over a bit, but I tried to talk as fast as I could. So let me know if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michelle. That's perfect. As she mentioned, we will be sending you guys the link to her booking site, so be on the lookout for that when you get the recording. We do have a few questions in, but for those of you that still have questions, be sure to drop them in the questions box. The first question we have, it says, my business is currently closed. Does that affect my eligibility for these incentives?
Okay, so no, you should absolutely be able to apply for this. Definitely for people in that situation, contact me. When did you close? Now, if you closed in January 1st or before, then that's not going to help. But if you close because of this situation, yes, there's definitely, there are options available to you, including the PPP, including the EIDL. You want to apply to these things.
Awesome. The next question we have says, is every bank a PPP approved lender?
No.
Okay.
No, unfortunately, no. And like I said, they're making it as difficult as possible. And I'm not sure there's anybody to blame, but yeah, they're making it difficult. If you have an account, a business account with a bank, easy. If you don't, it's problematic. So no, they're not all approved.
Okay. What is a way that they can check to see that they're approved or confirm whether or not?
Okay, so they have, and this is pretty funny. So they do have a list of SBA approved lenders. The first thing you want to do is check with the bank that you bank with. That's the first thing. You can go online, you can make a phone call. That's the first thing. And then after that, there is a listing of SBA approved lenders. Go to the SBA.gov site.
Okay, great.
And we can also include a link to those approved lenders as well.
Okay, great. Sounds good. Thank you. The next question we have says, if these funds run out before I'm able to apply or get approved, will there be any resources left for me?
Okay, so the PPP, yes, it's finite. The other ones, you definitely want to look at all the options. That's the best advice I can give you. Look at all the options. See what you are eligible for, because they are coming out with a second round. So you want to act on it now. And April 3rd was a start date for businesses with payroll to be able to apply. Self-employed people without payroll, they haven't been able to apply yet. Well, they're not supposed to, not until April 10th. And that's something I forgot to mention. So April 3rd was an apply date for businesses with payroll, essentially, and April 10th were for sole proprietors and the like, and independent contractors to be able to apply. So you're not late.
Gotcha. Awesome. Good dates to remember. The next question we have says, can we expect additional funds to be passed by Congress?
Yes. I
Okay.
don't know how much, but they mentioned trillion. That's all I can say right now.
Okay. Gotcha.
And they're working on it, so.
Right. The next question we have says, what if I am not yet affected by COVID-19, but scared about the future? Should I not apply or apply just in case? Do you know if I apply, do I have to accept the funds?
No, you do not have to accept the funds.
Okay.
For situations like that, I would more say to you, go after the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, more than the PPP. The PPP, I think, is more of an urgent loan. If you are okay and you have not yet, come across or been affected by this, go after the EIDL. It's a 3.75% interest rate, and it's less of a restriction.
Okay, great. The next question says, I completed the EIDL application and you're correct. It was super easy and quick. Will there be any notification whether I've been accepted or not?
I would go on your bank account like on a daily, not every day. You shouldn't do that. That's annoying. But, go on your bank account every few days and see if you see anything. You should receive notification via email. And like I said, I believe that they've been just so overwhelmed that even though it said 3-day turnaround, that has not happened. So you should receive something via email and I've heard of people just looking at their bank account and seeing something in there. So check that as well.
Okay. The next question we have says, can we expect additional recovery rebates in the future or just this one-time payment?
The recovery rebate, they didn't even come out with this one yet. So I would say to you that it depends on how long this lasts. There has been mention of it. They're still working on this one in terms of getting it out to people. They're, working on getting up a system so that people can enter their banking data. So, once they get through this round, it depends on how long this lasts. And I personally am going to say that, in my opinion, this is going to last longer than people expect it to. So in that case, they would consider coming out with another stimulus.
Okay, gotcha. The next question, I think they are referring to taxes here. They asked, are they basing it on the current year or last year's? I think they mean taxes when you're applying for these loans.
Okay, so they're basing it, so with the EIDL, it's not taxes. The EIDL is basically, they're looking at, so far, they haven't asked any financial questions. Not really, except for those gross sales and cost of goods sold. And that's for the period of February 1st, 2019 through January 31st, 2020. For the PPP, they are mostly concerned about your payroll. So that has to do with you filing your 941s, your quarterly 941s, and your payroll records. And they're not asking you for your tax return. That's not what they're asking you for. But it is for the period of April 1st, 2019 through March 31st, 2020.
Okay, gotcha. The next question says, the last time I checked the unemployment site, it does not allow for self-employed to apply. Has this changed or will it change to
Yes,
add
it
this?
has changed.
Okay.
It is, and I, one of my clients was working hard on it, was trying to get in, and a lot of people were trying to get in this weekend. And, the site was not cooperating. I would say try, and it'll probably take a couple tries. I will be honest with you. But there is something on there where you select self-employed and then you select the reason is coronavirus.
Okay, gotcha. Good tip. The next question we have says, will the recovery rebate be included in my 2020 income for taxes next year?
No, it is not taxable.
Okay. Good to know. The next question we have says, I received an email stating the SBA application processing system is currently down. Are you able to confirm this?
I wish I could ask, maybe you can put, the person who put that question, tell me when's the last time you looked. Just tell me when's the last time.
Yeah, we'll have to double check that.
Okay.
Okay, we'll jump to the next one for now. It says kind of long, but I have a question about PPP. We plan to apply. Besides the staff members to apply PPP, should I and my husband use our end of year salary divided by 12 months to add with employees' payroll to apply PPP together?
Okay.
Because me and my husband get end of year salary.
Right. So I personally use a spreadsheet that was provided by the AICPA, and it includes, so each month you'll have salary, and it's taking an average of 2 months. And that's a pretty good question. It is included. It's just, it's really a calculation. And the best thing I can say to you is contact me or schedule an appointment. But it is included, and just need to, my spreadsheet is doing it for me. I would need to be able to put it in and figure out that kind of how much they will be eligible for.
Gotcha. Perfect. So the next question says, what is this 8-week formula I keep hearing about in regards to the EIDL?
That's what so the 8 weeks is how much they're going to get for the 8 weeks is 2 months of payroll, right? So it's an average of the year in 2 months of payroll that they're going to be receiving in loan funds. It's actually 2.5. So I'm going to say that for the full year, average of 2 months times average of each month times 2.5, which includes the loan funds will be used for payroll and those other items I mentioned before: utilities, mortgage, interest, rent, health insurance. But that's what they're talking about, is 8 weeks of payroll.
Gotcha.
That's used in the calculation.
Okay, gotcha. Jumping back real quick to the question about the SBA application processing system, they said they checked the site Sunday and the email came across this morning around 8:30 saying that it was currently down.
Yeah, it was down for a little while before last week, Monday. So I would just keep going back. Like I said, people were crashing the website before, and it seemed to be working last week pretty well. It's because they streamlined it so much. The only thing I can say is just keep going back, go back tomorrow, keep trying.
Okay, awesome. The next question we have says, I applied for the EIDL before the PPP came out. Should I apply for that as well?
It depends on your situation. So it's not a straightforward answer. And it depends on, what does your financials look like? Are you receiving payroll, or are you just, is it just a Schedule C net income deal? Are you going to have, or do you have net income for that period of time? So it's not a straightforward yes or no. So once again, you can contact me.
Yeah. Another quick question about PPP. They said, can you go over which option is not available if you already have the PPP?
You can essentially have the EIDL and the PPP at the same time. The only thing is, if you receive the $10,000 from the EIDL, that's going to be included with the PPP. So they're going to subtract that 10,000, or up to 10, is up to 10,000. I need to stop saying 10. Up to 10,000. Whatever you get from that grant, from the EIDL grant, is going to be subtracted from the PPP. So you can still apply. If you get the PPP, you can still apply for the EIDL. You can't do unemployment. With unemployment, it's a timing issue. You can't have unemployment and PPP at the same time because both payroll related.
Okay. And someone else just chimed in, is the PPP based on credit?
No. It's
What
not.
is it based on?
It's based upon they're asking you for your 941s, your quarterly 941s, which is what you paid in payroll. It's basically a breakdown that on a normal basis we're sending every quarter to the federal government related to payroll, right? And it's payroll taxes. So they're asking for that. They're asking for your financials. They're asking for your, payroll expenses, health insurance, 401k or IRA contributions, those kind of things. They're not asking for your credit.
Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that. Then another question we have, kind of jumping back, they had asked previously about the unemployment piece and if that had been changed. They said there wasn't an option for self-employment, but it was asking about 1040 job status and not allowing them to go past that. Was this recently updated?
I just looked at it this weekend, so I'm not sure when, but I believe they had updated a while ago. It's just that you have to make the right selections, and it is tricky. It is tricky, and I had to try and walk my client through it. But there is a point where you have to select, like I said, that you are basically you're selecting, yes, you can do this, yes, you can do that, and just normal. But it's saying that you are unemployed. I don't know what the exact verbiage is, but that you are unemployed because of the coronavirus. So it's just with the system is really all about making the right selections, because it's like it's an if-then kind of a generator. It's not going to let you past a certain point if you answered wrong in the previous question. So, I would have to know what they did specifically for me to advise them.
Gotcha. And another question we have says, is the federal government going to allow penalty-free withdrawals from 401ks and IRAs?
Yes, so it is penalty-free. The 10% penalty will not apply for taking out your up to 100,000 for during this period of time, because of the coronavirus issue. So I believe it's up through 2020.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. And I believe we're almost through them. The next question says, will I be penalized for waiting until the July deadline to file my taxes?
No, as long as you file by July 15th, there is no penalty. It's automatic for everyone. You do not have to file any kind of extension requests or pay or anything else. The payment, and now let me clarify. As business people, we should already be making estimated tax payments. So whatever penalty you would have had on April 15th is the same penalty you're going to have on July 15th, because you should have been making estimated payments throughout 2019, every quarter in 2019. So that's not going to change. Now, just the fact that you're filing by July 15th, you're not going to have any penalty because of that.
Gotcha. Awesome. Sounds great. I think those are all of our hard hitter questions. We do have a few comments though, some people just wanting to extend their thanks for you presenting today, and also asking for your email. Just so everyone knows, we will be including the link to set up the booking with Michelle if you'd like to do that. We'll send around her calendar link as well as her contact information. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But I think that's it. Michelle, we thank you so much. This was so helpful.
I appreciate it. I enjoyed myself. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to this audience. It was great, and hopefully I have been of value. And please don't feel free to contact me if you have any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Michelle, and for everyone who attended. As a reminder, you can definitely visit bbbevents.org to find information on upcoming webinars, to sign up for those, and then be on the lookout for the recording of this webinar and those additional assets that we're going to be sending around. So thank you guys so much, and I hope you have a great afternoon.
Bye, everybody.